Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live here on the International Public Radio via United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. So, tonight, as every night, we are sponsored by Folgers Coffee. Thank you, Folgers. You're like family. You've been with us since day one. And, of course, we have Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, who is an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, and sci-fi and darkware electronic music. That's one big breath. So, his music is available on Bandcamp, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, and most streaming platforms. So thank you for your generous contribution of your voice and your music to our show. So tonight, after several months of waiting, we welcome Constance Victoria Briggs for the very first time to the show, and she's going to be discussing her book, The Encyclopedia of Moon Mysteries. So we've had her scheduled for quite a while. Unfortunately, sorry, long waiting list. We're trying to rectify that a little bit. In order to participate in tonight's show, please head on over to UFO Paranormal Radio or International Public Radio on YouTube. Those are the only two YouTube for tonight. And of course, we have Twitch, and we are on various Facebook pages, such as The Outer Realm, of course. And we've got Canada's Most Haunted, Michelle Desrochers. We've got, let's see, what else we have? UFO Paranormal Radio, United Public Radio, News on the Flip Side. And where's the other one? Joe Montaldo, UFO Undercover. So go over there. We'll see you in chat. And we can only respond, though, via the YouTube. So please tag Amelia on the UFO Paranormal Radio Network YouTube channel. I think that's what we got. Did I get everything? God, did I get everything?
I think so. And if you didn't...
Out of breath. Man, it's a lot to take.
Oh, my gosh. That's
Yes.
one heck of a beginning. Good evening, French toast.
And Michelle
Zachman.
Woo, gang's over here.
Hello, everyone.
We're getting started. Yeah.
Hope you're having a great Wednesday night. We'll give you a minute to collect yourselves and come on. Oh, I've got a chill. There's a chill in the air. It's getting there. That weather's coming. I can feel it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. This house gets, I mean, it warms up pretty quick, but it's got walls that are 3 feet thick. So if it gets cold, it just sits. It takes a while to get the edge off, laid back chilling. Well, thanks for chilling with us.
Oh, I need a heater.
I know.
I've got the chills. Hi, Wayne.
Hey, Wayne.
I need a heater tonight. I've got the chills. It could be from my damn flu shot, though. I don't know.
It could be.
It's cold here today. It is cold. It is cold outside. Weather's still nice here. Oh, shut up, Zach.
Right? Like me.
I love the fall, but unfortunately in Ontario, Canada, the fall lasts about 2.5 weeks, and then it's like winter.
That's true.
But it's been a warm October, so we're pretty fortunate there. But yeah, you dress in layers here between October and December. You kind of dress in layers because you leave the house and it's super cold, and then halfway through the day, if you're out all day, you're taking stuff off because the sun comes out and it gets so hot.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yes, it's tough.
George is beautiful.
I'm always sort of facing the books working. It's a little bit tough to what the heck is all this?
I don't know what that is. What he's saying. I don't know what us means.
Yeah, we're not doing it, just saying.
Yeah, I don't know what it means. My hands are here. I can't be doing it.
I know. I'm just like, I don't know who that is. It's Joe having a little bit of fun there. We don't know what the heck he's even saying. Like somebody's just had a long day.
Burn up some energy because he didn't have his show before ours. So he needs to burn some of that.
Well, it's just great.
Go chase the puppy, Joe.
Yeah. Yeah, little Lola will keep you occupied.
It'll burn you out in 10 minutes.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So tonight we've got Constance Victoria Briggs, and before I let you get to her bio, I want to touch on the fact that people are really curious about the moon. The moon is personally one of my most favorite celestial bodies, but is it really celestial?
Hi, Dolly. Yeah.
And astronauts have been saying that there was something with it, extraterrestrial life. There are abductees who claim that they've been on it. There are military personnel who claim they've been on it, inside of it. So this is kind of a lot going on with that, So I'm sort of curious to see what she's going to have to say about it. I mean, she's waited quite a bit of time to get here, so I know it's going to be good. Her book, The Encyclopedia of Moon Mysteries, sounds intriguing. So looking forward to seeing what that's all about. So I don't know. You look up at the moon up there and you think to yourself, oh, I've always loved it. And
I like moon bathing, the way people sunbathe.
It's one of my most favorite things. Amanda Pittman, sure, I've seen you. Oh, thank you very much, Amanda.
That show is on every day. It's one of my favorite shows.
Thank you.
It's one of my favorite shows.
Oh. But when you look at it, do you ever think that there's something more to it? Like, do you ever feel like a lab rat? You've got the Death Star hanging over the planet.
When you're in the moonlight?
No,
you and I lead different lives.
No, I'm talking about like if sometimes there's that theory, that there's somebody like overseers just watching us all. It's like
you're an ant in an ant farm.
Yeah.
When I feel that way, it's really funny. It's when I'm watching an ant walk by and I'm seeing they are tremendous little creatures who can carry 100 times their own body weight. And I think it can't be possible because we're just not as fabulous as they are. We're actually one of the worst creatures out there. Yeah. Humans can be really, really, really cruel and nasty. I do feel like maybe we are their science experiment at times. I'm not going to lie.
Right.
But I will bring that intro forward since she is in the green room waiting. Constance Victoria Briggs is a metaphysical, spiritual, cosmic researcher and writer. She is the author of the Encyclopedia series, Angels, of God, of the Unseen World, and of the Moon. A guest speaker of such topics of angels, ET, ancient aliens, life after death, OBEs, out-of-body experiences, after-death communication, moon mysteries, and more. Please welcome Constance Victoria Briggs to the Outer Realm. Hi, Constance. How are you?
Hello.
Hi. I'm good, thank you. How are you two?
We're doing all right. A little cold, but we're all right. It's
a little chilly here. Yeah, it's a little cold here.
Yeah. But otherwise, we're A-okay, and we've been looking forward to the show tonight. And I was just saying how much I've always loved the moon. To me, I've always gravitated towards it. I've always loved it. It's just, sort of my thing. And I know I'm not the only one like it. A lot of people just love it. So I'm really curious to see what you're going to have to say about it. It's probably what I'm already thinking, but
okay, all right.
So I always like to start off with what I call, humble beginnings. So we have a lot of people listening. So please, we're going to let you just take the show and tell us about yourself and your journey to this point where you've chosen these things to talk about. In the case tonight, we're discussing the moon. So what led you to the health curiosity or? Go.
Okay, all right. So I'm sorry, we're having a little background issue, so I apologize if I'm a little distracted. So basically, I just want to say thank you for having me.
Hi.
And I watch you ladies from time to time, and I thought about going out and getting a Auburn wig because you're just really too fabulous.
Oh,
so.
That would have been pretty.
Would be so much easier than this process. Let me tell you.
Well, I love it. But so the moon has taken over my life these days. Like Michelle said, it's a real passion for me as well. We all grew up admiring the moon and looking at its beauty, and we were taught that it's just entity that has nothing going on with it, nothing going on with the moon, just a dead rock in the sky, right? So a few years ago, during my research, I came across some interesting information, and having my hands in the metaphysical topics, and studying also whether or not we're alone in the universe. I have lots of stories that come across my desk, but this one kind of turned my head. It was a book written by a researcher named Don Wilson, and he was a ufologist. And he wrote about basically the NASA astronauts and some of the things that had occurred while they were on their missions to the moon. And that's pretty much where I got started with his little book. And it was just so interesting for me that it was a jumping off a point for finding out more. And I started collecting these stories and throwing them into a file. And unbeknownst to me, in the 1970s, the moon and moon anomalies were quite a hot topic. That's when Don Wilson wrote the book. It was right after the astronauts had come back. And I know there's people out there that believe we never went, but, I do. So yeah, I do talk about it. So that's where I started. And I learned that were not just anomalies occurring with the astronauts going up, but there's just anomalies, unexplained mysteries on the moon in general. It's not just a place where there's no activity. It's not a dead rock in the sky. There's plenty of stuff going on with it.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like, like the term Death Star.
The term Death Star, isn't it cool?
Where did that come from?
It is. What, the Death Star? Have you not seen Star Wars?
The term.
I know.
Obi-Wan Kenobi? Was it Obi-Wan Kenobi? I don't know.
I know.
I've never seen any of those shows, so that explains it. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I know. I think I'm the only one on this network that has never watched Star Trek or Star Wars. But,
oh my gosh. So yeah, no, my son is, a big Star Wars fan, and I am a Trekkie. So
are you?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So why don't you go back in time then?
Switzerland.
Tell us a little bit, like the ancients. There is some literature that states that the moon was definitely brought into, our solar system, that it wasn't always there.
Okay, so wow. What's interesting is, I'm going to just deviate just for a sec. I wrote this Moon Mysteries book, all right, and it talks a little bit about that, and a little bit, about a bunch of other stuff. But
okay,
I just want to say,
you take it any way you want. Okay.
All right, no, I'm not going to stay there. I'm going to answer your question. But what's interesting is I was asked to write another book, and I've written all encyclopedias up to this point, but I am writing a narrative, and I start at the beginning, and of the moon, what I call the moon's galactic history.
Okay.
And who would have thought that it has one, right? It does. The moon has a story to be told, and it starts with the ancients. So if we can just back up just a second and talk about, because this ties into it, we do not know in our modern era We do not know where the moon came from or how the moon was created. All right.
Right.
We do not know the origin. With all that, the studying we've done, all the investigations that we've done, the time, money, effort, astronauts sent, we still don't know how it got to be here. So if you go back into ancient history, our ancient history, there are some interesting tales. And one of them talks about a time when there was no moon in the sky. Have you ladies ever heard that? Michelle,
No.
you have? Yeah. A time, believe it or not, because until I started this research, I didn't know that there was a time in Earth history where some of the great philosophers of old, including Aristotle, talked about this time where there was no moon, that the shiniest object, the shiniest entity in the sky was Venus. And so there were several that talked about, and I believe it was Ovid who wrote a little bit more extensively, where he said the people, there was several of them said there was a race of people that lived in Greece and that they were named the Arcadians. And this philosopher said they were wild people. They lived, they ate acorns. They, they didn't, wear much. They were uncultured, which of course, when we think of ancient history in a time before, that may go back before the moon, we know that they would have been wild people. But these people were named the Arcadians. And so there are several writers who talk about that period, which I find astounding because we have adopted the lessons from a lot of these philosophers, and here they are saying that the moon wasn't always there. So if we move forward a bit, there are two interesting stories. One deals with the Sun Gate, the Gate of the Sun, which is located in Bolivia, and this is an ancient structure that had writings on it. This place, it's a ruin. It's a ruin that was a part of an observatory, and it has writings and symbols on it that were transcribed or translated, to see what they said. Basically, they said that the moon came in to Earth's orbit and created, of course, a lot of chaos with its arrival. It created a lot of storms on the Earth, and there was a lot of disaster because it's moving in so closely the way that it did. So there is an ancient writing in Bolivia that sort of goes along with what these philosophers of old were telling us. Also, we have the story of the Zulu people, the Zulu people of Africa, who have an ancient tale where it's been handed down for all of these centuries. And they said that the moon was it's in a story form. So they likened the moon to an egg. They called it an egg. And they said that this egg was hollowed out, which essentially, it was a planet that, a planetoid that was hollowed out. And they said that this egg was sent across the universe by these two, I guess we would call them extraterrestrial brothers, and placed into Earth's orbit. So you've got, at least two tales now talking about that. And you've got the ancients, philosophers talking about it. So of course there's something amiss there. Now, some people may say, oh, that just sounds like fantasy. But, I told them either we adopt what the philosophers said, or we don't. You can't take some of their lessons and ignore the other one because it doesn't fit your way of thinking. Mm-hmm. So we have been taught that the Earth cannot continue or exist without the moon. We need it. But there was one researcher who argued Mars doesn't have a satellite the size of our moon, and it's not moving all around,
Right.
out there. It's not, because they said if we don't have the moon, it'll tilt and it'll roll, but not necessarily to that extent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the story behind the ancients, bringing in the moon.
Mm-hmm.
When does the moon first appear in history then?
Right. So I have come across different dates. The Sun Gate says something like 12,000 years ago. They said it, now we know the moon is old.
Mm-hmm. That would line up with the Great Flood, when some of the ancient civilizations disappeared.
Right. And also Atlantis.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I could see that causing a bit of a stir, just coming into orbit and
Mm-hmm.
throwing everything into chaos over here. That's
right.
Interesting. That's an interesting date.
Right.
Wow.
So yeah. So we have the Zulu people. Now people could argue, the Zulu people were it was just a myth. But we also have the Dogon tribe who knew about series A and B before we did, and they said that extraterrestrials had brought them this information. They knew the solar system. And they said that extraterrestrials had brought them this information. So, who's to argue that with the Zulu people, it didn't happen that way too? And they're not the only ones. There are a lot of civilizations.
Gnostics were the same.
Yeah, there's a lot of civilizations and religions and beliefs throughout history that says that extraterrestrials or people who came from the stars brought them information. So we have a conundrum with the moon. We want to believe that it is natural, but it looks more and more like this is not a natural satellite. And yeah. And I have an interesting story from the Soviets too.
Okay.
Remind me not to forget.
No, I'd like you to take this in whichever direction that you want to, because I know you've got a path that you're, based on where start to finish. Encyclopedia is a pretty major thing. So maybe just keep guiding us through. So we're going from the ancient times, and now there is a lot. You have to wonder when we talk about civilizations, because now with satellites, people are seeing images of like ancient things, like pyramids or faces or a sphinx, or it's all over the internet, whether it's photoshopped or not. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, so I think if I can just go back just a little bit, just before that time, to the Soviet story, and then I'll move into to that part of it. So basically, pardon me, there were all of these questions in the 70s about the astronauts going up and what was seen up there, and them coming back with all of these pictures. And yeah, some of the pictures showed what appeared to be ancient ruins, all kinds of structures. I'll just go there really quick. So the structures that they had pictures of that they saw were in geometric shapes, sharp angles. Some of them looked like ruins. Some of them looked complete, but most of them were in ruins. And for one researcher said it looked like it looked like there had been a war there. And most of the buildings and things were in ruins. So they did find those. They did come back in NASA picture imagery. It's been my understanding, excuse me, that some of these images were changed so that we can't see them. But fortunately, some of them before the cover up of this began, some of these pictures were just released out there. And if you get old books and NASA images, you can see, some of the old pictures, and then you can find some of them on the internet. But yeah, there was a Sphinx, there were pyramids, there were glass type structures. There are structures that resemble castles, even with a moat, which is weird. And that was a hot topic in the 70s. I think it never completely died off, but I think it has become a little quieter because people have gotten older, and then, people were born and they didn't have a clue. So, but there are some amazing books out on that with imagery. But there was these two Soviet scientists that wrote a paper. It was published in Sputnik magazine, and in the 70s, and they had a theory for the moon. They looked at all of the research that they could put together by NASA, and they came to a conclusion that the moon is not a natural satellite. And they put their reputations on the line with this line of thought because it just really is such a crazy idea, to most people. But they looked at the fact that when meteorites hit the moon, no matter how hard or large the meteorite is, the craters are all about 2.5 miles deep. They're all very similar, and the argument is, of course, they should be heavier. They should be deeper. They also studied the soil of the moon that the astronauts brought back, and they looked at the findings from that and the elements that it is made up of. They are saying that the moon is made of a very tough material. It would be a kind of a hull where if you were building a ship that you are going to try to have it withstand bombardment and heat, that the elements that they found there add up to someone creating what appears to them to be a ship, because you wouldn't find these elements, where they are. And in fact, we don't even have most of them. We have very few are just bits of these elements here on Earth. So that kind of freaked them out a little bit. But also, I think one of the things that sold them was looking at the fact that the moon, we've all heard the phrase, the moon rang like a bell. Well, of course, it didn't really ring. It reverberated. It reverberated for people will say, "Oh, it rang like a bell." They heard it ring like a bell.
What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, no, it didn't ring like a bell. It reverberated, but it shook, and it wasn't just once. I mean, they smashed that ascent stage into it the first time, and then there was another couple of other trips that the astronauts went up and they did it again. And these Soviet scientists looked at that and they said, it's got to be hollow for it to be doing that. And not only them, it was NASA scientists and NASA people who, when this first happened, they did a press conference and they were shocked. And they came forward and they said that it reverberated, and they couldn't explain why. And they said, we don't know why it would be doing that unless it's a hollow entity. So they were puzzled, and they're still puzzled. They still don't have an answer. But so these Soviet scientists basically said they think that this is a created ship, just like the Zulu tribe said. And they said that they believe it was sent here across the universe and placed in Earth's orbit. And that what we have here, they think, are a ship that has engines inside and all supplies needed for a race of beings or people to survive on a trip across the universe.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think? Like, what does your gut tell you? Do you think it's hollow? Do you think there's a base in there? Do you think it's a ship, or is it just some sort of celestial being, like entity? Much like a planet would be just kind of tossed into our orbit.
Yeah,
maybe from a supernova or something,
It's from the energy waves or from anything. Like, who knows where this is really coming? You're freaking me out just a little bit.
Yeah, no, so I was freaked out, and sometimes I'm still freaked out. Sometimes I'm just quiet. I'm going over the information.
Yeah, that's okay.
And I'm like,
people will comment and chat, as well. So just, we just want to let you get out
Oh,
as
no, no,
much
no.
information as you do. This is
No,
good. We find it very interesting.
no, Michelle, I think you didn't hear what I said. What I said was, I think Amelia said she's a little freaked out, and I
Oh,
said I said I get freaked
really?
out too, and sometimes I get quiet
Oh,
Oh,
because
really?
okay.
I'm just thinking about it.
Okay,
When
sorry,
you're
I don't
thinking
freak
about
out.
the
Yeah.
reality of this and how it just fits,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
like history is validating all of these what people might call myths or, you know, stories from past or what it really is validating
Mm-hmm.
and it's looking way too real right now.
I just saw.
How did the world function before the moon? The moon's supposed to give it so much life and energy. What happened?
Yeah, no, I can't answer that. And I'm sure that, I guess a scientist could give us a little bit more insight, but there is a theory, and there's several theories, but one, and I'm going to answer your question, Michelle. There is,
No worries.
Don't worry.
Leisure.
This is your
I'm,
show.
I'm
Don't
just
worry.
coasting around. Yeah, you enjoy, girl.
Yeah.
You'll find we're
there,
very gracious hosts. We let you do most of the talking.
that's no, yeah, you have to just, if you have a question, jump in, because I get
Absolutely.
I don't have a lot of people to talk to the subject about, so.
Well, we love your
Well, you do
passion. We
tonight.
love your passion. So just
Yeah, you
enjoy
do
it.
tonight. You got a lot of listeners, so
Yeah.
So, one of the theories to quickly answer Amelia, is that there were advanced extraterrestrials who, and by the way, I call this the Garden of Eden theory, that looked at Earth. Somehow they found us way out here on the edge of of nowhere, and they thought that Earth had a lot of potential. Apparently, if there was a time when there was no moon, there was something here. There was some life here. It wasn't maybe hopping and jumping the way it is now, but there was something. Because one scientist, at least one that I've come across, did say that Earth could have life without a moon. So it wouldn't have been the ideal situation of what we see today, and I don't know scientifically what it would have been like, but they found something here. They saw something in it, according to the theory, and they wanted to help improve it. So they, saw that it needed to be stable, and they stabilized the Earth, and they saw that, if they did that, then it would help life here to thrive and give it its jump start. But again, that is a theory.
It's a very
You
cool
have
theory.
it
well, yeah,
is.
because I mean, you see temples out there that are pre, 12,000 years that did really, really well. I mean, they're finding remnants of it all over the place. Can't speak for Atlantis. We know how that ended up, but but you're finding some really interesting archaeological sites right now that are from, like, let's just go with the hypothesis that it's a 12,000 year mark. Some of these are going back even further, and were they all destroyed while this thing came into orbit, or is it like you say, no, this stabilized everything? Something happened in that time period for sure. Like
You know,
havoc.
right. And you just gave me an interesting thought, Michelle. And that is, I've heard, looking, at archaeological history and ancient history, that we have had civilization that were advanced that started over and over, before. And due to some catastrophe, it wiped out our memories and we had to start again. What if something happened to the earth during one of those periods? What if there were, such power, nuclear power in one of those ancient civilizations that it knocked the earth, off balance. And these advanced beings brought in this thing to restabilize it or stabilize it. Who knows?
Different theory. I like that twist to it also.
It's
like
interesting.
the moon didn't necessarily cause the flood. Maybe all this happened beforehand, and you're right. It came in, stabilized it. See, it's just like two different perspectives. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like it. It's a curiosity because, wow. I mean, definitely with it being there, things definitely seem stable. I mean, we do have our share of storms, though. And it makes you wonder, because when the moon goes, there's that theory when it goes off kilter. Let's face it, we are made up of water, and the moon cycles affect oceans, large bodies of water. We are water. You get people that go totally cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
They increase police presence in the cities when there's a full moon.
So what is it about that? If it's not a celestial body in the sky, what is it about that would make us react that way?
Right. I don't know. Our bodies are feeling like it's being kind of maybe pulled, in when it's closer. I don't know, because we are made up of, water, so much of it that maybe we feel that pull too. They call it, that's where the word lunatic comes from, right? People go crazy.
Yeah.
From the Luna. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. That is crazy.
Yeah. It's a good curiosity. That's for sure. I just saw something recently in the news that the Russians, I guess, was it one of their satellites? Something just captured a UFO going into one of the craters of the moon, and it captured images of that.
Yeah, I've seen a number of those.
And again, I saw that today. I'm like, what's in the moon?
I want to know who dis.
Right.
Who dis?
Yeah.
Right. Where are they going when they're exiting? Do you think they're coming here?
That is one hell of a view. Yeah.
I do
want
believe
what they're not telling us.
Yeah. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of abductees and military personnel who've talked about being taken to a base in the moon.
Inside or on?
Inside.
Oh.
Inside.
Okay.
So, let's face it, we could, out of all the places we can explore, we go to the moon, apparently, and we never go back. Like, we only do certain missions. We're only allowed to do certain things, but we don't explore it further. We don't colonize it. Yeah, it's right there. We've been to it. It can be colonized.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is.
And we don't colonized. Know. I have no doubt.
It is, and we don't know. That's why, like Constance says, it's inside.
Curiosity.
Inside.
Thoughts? Yes. Okay. So I need to comment on colonization and is anyone inside the moon? Okay. Right. I'm keeping track.
At your leisure. Put it in whatever order you want. Just a healthy discussion. That's all.
I'm keeping track. Okay. So
no one's listening.
Okay. Right. So Michelle asked me, what do I think about people being inside the moon and or someone there? I'm forgetting the question now, Michelle. But so
just go along with it.
I think there's definitely, it just took me a while, when I realized the gravity of the situation. I just really had to stop and think, and and so I put some of these ideas in my new book. But yeah, I think someone has got to be up there. I mean, they've got, and they have been for centuries. They've been having showing lights moving across the surface of the moon, above the moon. You can see spotlights during eclipse of the moon, during lunar eclipse. One astronomer swore that he saw some sort of what he called insects. Now, that's lack of a better term, because we don't know what kind of extraterrestrial life may be out there, but that was the closest he could find for this, what looked like this dark cloud of insects flying together. And I think he said they traveled 20 miles in 12 days or something like that. But he was watching these things go across the moon. I mean, what were they? So, and then in the craters, some of the craters, it's just mind-boggling. They're seeing lights appear and disappear in all kinds of shapes, sizes, colors, some coming out, some at the bottom of the craters. And sometimes there's 5, and sometimes there's 1, and they're large, small. Sometimes there's cloud-like lights appearing, like some kind of lighted fog or something, and they don't know what it is. If you ask me, it just sounds like, maybe extraterrestrials are going about their business and their life and using their lights,
Why not?
Right.
Maybe they thought enough to colonize it because we couldn't do
Right.
anything with it.
Right. So what else is there? I mean, you've got so many people, and these are, people from the 1600s to now that are talking about seeing this stuff. And right now we have astronomers getting film of objects leaving the moon, entering the moon, going into crevices, and coming out. And I'm thinking, okay, so because we have been taught that the moon is dead, and there's nothing going on there, people have just, forgotten about it. And you've got SETI looking, out for, into the distance for extraterrestrial life. And you've got people going to the moon, and that's a whole other show because some of the imagery coming off the moon is, I'm looking at it thinking, why isn't this in the news? I don't understand. I'm shocked, more shocked that it's not in the news than what I'm seeing in the pictures.
But you have all these people who are trying to get to Mars, and I'm thinking, but the moon is so much closer. You're talking about colonizing something.
Well, it's already been done.
Right. So
maybe it's not working.
Amelia, I think that's it. I think what happened is, from all of the evidence, and they just won't say it. They just won't say, God, there's a lot of lights up there. There's a lot of movement. And we even have video of what looks like ships going in and out. They just won't say someone's on the moon. No. I think that they're afraid to scare people, even though.
But there's more activity with UFOs on this planet. It's like we see it all. Camera phones. You can't. We get more than what they want to let on. The people already know.
They know, they see them. I know people that have seen them, and they just can't officially come out and say it. But I think that they're getting ready, and I think that they slowly are. But I have a theory as to why they maybe didn't go back. Besides it being colonized, they just may. If there's ETs up there, they just may not be friendly. So there was a remote viewer by the name of Ingo Swann. I don't know if you've heard of him or know the story. Okay, so he was remote viewing the moon, and he goes up, so to speak. I mean, okay, this guy has credibility. He was the guy who first found the ring of Jupiter before we did. So I give him credit for his job. He was the best remote viewer of that time, I've read. So he goes up, he's sent up there by this secret agency because governments, including Russia, have been using remote viewers to try to get information, although they won't admit it. So Ingo Swann had to sign a contract or a disclosure form saying that he wouldn't talk for 30 years, and he didn't. And finally he wrote his book, Penetration. And he says he goes up there and he saw humanoids there. And he saw buildings there, and he saw them building what looked to be a laser or something that they were working on. And he said somehow while he was there, they got a sense of him, and they turned, and he reported back, because remember he's sitting with these secret officials, and he's telling them, I think they see me. And they told him to pull back, and he pulled back, and he came back, and he hid. He hid because he swears that they followed him. They could sense him, and he hid, which told me, maybe they're just not so friendly. Maybe they just weren't so friendly. They didn't want us up there.
But he was, but I mean, let's face it, he was an intruder stepping into their space, and I mean, I've had people try to view me, and I get pretty hostile if it happens without my permission.
It's highly intrusive.
Yeah, I'll toss your energy back at you, and I might even hurt your feelings. So if they're looking at it that way, it's going to be, you're an intruder in their space. But if they're building a laser, why? And were they military? I mean, come on, we know even there's stories of even Hitler being up there getting this technology. You know, the Germans going up there with extraterrestrials, and there's all kinds of theories and conspiracy theories. But who the heck knows? I mean, maybe, maybe.
I think the ETs are the reason why people can remote view. I think it was taught many, many, many moons ago. Yeah. No pun intended.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
But I'm not a remote viewer. I don't know how, but I would love to learn, because I certainly would love to go and remote view the moon. Would that be cool? Or at least astral project there. That would be a good thing to do,
unless they've put some kind of
force field,
energy force field around it, so you can't, because that is highly possible.
Yeah.
Well, they're saying that the astronauts may have been warned off the moon, and that's been a story that's been churning for years. And that we're not wanted up there. And the theory is that if that is true, maybe they have actually taken a look at us on Earth and seen the way we behave. We're still in the warring phase of a species. We're still young, I guess, but we're still warring, and there's crime, and, we're destroying the Earth. And, somebody said, oh, they just wouldn't want us up there, doing that. And maybe that's why. But I can tell you that I do think that there is a possibility, two things. Maybe there were native moon inhabitants, just like, Earth has, we have natives here. Maybe there were native moon inhabitants. Maybe there were advanced beings that seeded different places in the solar system, and that's why we keep hearing about humanoid ETs. So maybe they were there, and there was a catastrophe, and they died or they fled, and that's where the ruins came in, and maybe a whole new set of beings came in, and used the lava tubes within the moon. Now, lava tubes are interesting because NASA is talking about lava tubes today, and that if we were to colonize the moon, because they obviously must think that there is, hollow, they're saying there are lava tubes in there. They can be used for people to go in and live within the moon and avoid the extreme temperatures on the surface of the moon, and that they could make it quite, comfortable and place the colony underneath, not necessarily on top. That's been some talk. So it could be that there are beings that have already discovered that and that are already there, because they have seen lights coming out of craters. Some of the craters look like they have domes, and they can see lighted domes. Very interesting stuff. And they're like, where's that energy coming from?
Hi, Kat.
Hey, Dave. Stone Hobbit. Wow, Wes. Filling up. Christine.
Hi.
Love, Chris, Bob. Wow.
Yeah, they keep coming in.
Yeah.
They're catching us on the Facebook platforms. You could go on and on and on forever. I could see why you wrote an encyclopedia. Is there going to be a second volume to that? Seriously, because there's just so much information, right?
Yeah, I have started actually throwing some new information in a file. I don't know if it will, turn into a second book, but we'll see how much I collect. But I do have, the narrative coming out. With some interesting information as well. So,
because the world's ever changing, ever evolving, and we're privy to much more information than you were perhaps when you wrote that book. So I would imagine that there's endless possibilities of. I don't know. I couldn't see anyone else but you doing it. I'm not going to lie, but I think it's so fascinating. I'm dumbfounded right now. I'm just like, wow, never thought of it that way. Never thought of it. Really never thought of it, period. Just like you said earlier, you look at the moon and you see it as a kid, the moon, the stars. It makes me feel amazing when it's full and it's huge. And one of the favorite I love the city of Seattle, because when you're there, the moon at night is like you can touch it. It's so big from that part of the world. It's just so big and so calming and beautiful for me anyways, but I never thought of it in that way where there could be, I always thought there could be life there, but I never thought of it as being hostile or, and it makes so much sense because when you think about it, when the United States stopped landing there, so did the rest of the world stop trying.
Yes.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason to spend that kind of time, effort, and money to go to Mars when, this is a place that they have already been. Excuse me. It's obviously it's closer. We know that it has some incredible resources. It has helium-3, which, any country that gets there and gets a helium-3, first would just be rich. They could rule the world. And they're wanting to bypass it. It just doesn't make any sense. So I believe that they know something, and they're afraid to share it. So there are a lot
of some things.
The Brookings Institute told NASA when they first sent up the astronauts, when they said, if you find, basically if you find extraterrestrials, don't tell the public. This was a long time ago. So, not to say that we're not ready now, but back then they thought, okay, the public is not ready to hear this. Don't tell them, it will just be, chaos. Now, where would they get that idea? Well, they're in I think it was in the 1940s or 50s. Maybe you ladies might know. Orson Welles did a radio show, The War of the Worlds.
Yes.
And people kind of went crazy and lost their minds. It was just fiction, but people thought that we were being attacked by Martians, and I think some people died in the process.
Yes.
Well done, and a lot of information for the time that didn't exist at your fingertips like now. So it was quite shocking.
Yeah. So they're worried that they were worried at that time that we may have that same scenario, that people would not be able to handle it and go crazy. And then, of course, we have the whole idea of religion falling in the economy. This is stuff that I'm hearing. I personally think people are ready.
Yeah, those were different times. I think now with technology, the internet, movies, like I said, you have camera phones, people have cameras. You see things in the sky all the time. Some people have had all kinds of extraterrestrial experiences, some worse than others. But I also see a pattern with government. I see government basically, instilling fear. And when people get comfortable, like UFOs, UAPs, we're going to do this big disclosure, which wasn't really a big disclosure. I think the public already knew more than what they were trying to let out. We're like, and we know you know more. Give me a break.
It's like the Kennedy files, same thing.
When they realize people don't have that fear, well, now it's the next thing. What is it? The false flag thing. Well, they're chasing our planes, or they're swarming our carriers. Now they're talking about possibly disclosing extraterrestrial life. We're like, we know. Why is it like when the fear stops with this, then we take it an extra one and an extra one? They just don't give the public enough credit. Now, there are people who are going to freak out, but there are people who freak out at everything. We all have different comfort zones, but you don't know unless you just put it out there. We all suspect. We all suspect. I don't think there's anybody out there really. I mean, they may not believe, but I'm pretty sure it's at least crossed their minds.
Well, we have to reach a point, in this world where we grow, where we're not just, standing still, where we're not static. And if there is a universal community out there, there is a time where we just have to admit it and accept it and be a part of it. And that time, may be coming, very soon. It's my understanding that that a couple of the presidents have been visited by extraterrestrials. Did you hear that story? My brother called me with that story. My brother called me with that story. He says, Did you know that one of the presidents met with extraterrestrials? Says, yes, I know. It's not
yes.
something I walk around saying.
And what
few
took you so
times.
long?
A few times. Oh my gosh. But,
Yeah.
I can't say that to my, to my friends. I'm not here a part of a community where I can talk about these things. So I'm just quiet about them. So when he called and he said that to me, because he knows, he and I do talk a little bit about the stuff. And I said, yes, I know. They made a deal. They tried to make a deal. So the story, people, is that there was an extraterrestrial group that met with one of the presidents, or a couple of the presidents, different times, and they wanted us to put down nuclear weapons. They wanted us to exchange technology for the agreement that we wouldn't use them. They said they didn't want us to destroy life on this planet, and that it would have a domino effect throughout the galaxy. Mm-hmm. And the story is from a person who was there and who came forward to talk, and that does happen a lot these days. And I did see a document. I've got to find it. I saw it on the internet where it was signed by somebody had leaked it a long time ago. But they said no, they weren't going to give up the weapons. Keep the technology, and they left. But I don't think they went far, because during that same period of time, that's when the whole UFO phenomenon increased. Now, it was already there. We have pictures going back to ancient times of what looks like spacecraft and people in spacesuits written in stone, which is strange. So I think they've always been around. And like we said, they visited us, helped us, gave us information. But this was something different. In the 50s, the UFO phenomenon increased, and there were ships being seen everywhere. And there were contactees, people saying, I was contacted by these, extraterrestrials, and they said this, and this, and that, we need to have peace, and we're killing the world. And and that they never left. So
even, if you get into old biblical texts and old, really old artwork going back to Da Vinci, you'll see UFOs and all of it. Who was the first abductee? Enoch. Technically, Book of Enoch, it's all hidden in there. I think there are more of them on this planet than people realize. And with the moon so close, it makes sense that they would go back and forth. It really does. They're so close together.
It makes sense to me too, but like I said, they've been circling around, bypassing the moon now, and that really fascinates me because it's pretty obvious now. So. Yeah. I've seen, like I said, and you have too, what appears to be ships leaving the moon, and I think, where are they going? Right. Where are they going? Now, I have a theory. In my book, my new book, I will talk about a little bit, that maybe it is a stopover place.
Okay.
We don't know how. Let's just say ETs are out there and they're traveling around, and people are saying, well, it takes thousands of years to get from one point of the galaxy to the next. But what if they have a shortcut? What if they have learned that, and the moon is a stopover? And I say the moon is a stopover because of the amount of descriptions of vehicles that have been described here on this planet. Do they really have that many there? That many different kinds? So we've got the ellipticals, we've got the saucers, we've got the triangles, we've got the three points, kind of like a triangle, but not exactly the dark triangles that I'm talking about. There's a different, right? There's different ones. I don't know if they're all coming from there, or maybe it is a stopover, or maybe there's an agreement that they have to stop over. And then somebody said, well, Constance, we've been to the moon. We didn't see anything. Well, no, that's not true. If the astronauts were up there and they saw something, and we know they did, they weren't going to come back and talk about it because they get in trouble. But they did have pictures on the one of the first missions, Apollo 8, the Apollo 8 mission. They went up and they were, beginning their trying to get men to the moon. So they had all these practice runs. So Apollo 8 went up and they did see something strange and they took a picture of this thing. And it looked like a kind of a triangle or with wings. It was weird. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it, except it was white and it looked like it, almost like a flower or a butterfly. I don't know how to explain it. It looked different. It wasn't a saucer. It wasn't egg shaped, but they got a picture. And then they tried to hide it later. NASA tried to hide it, and they didn't have the techniques that we do to, cover things out of pictures. So they took black tape and they put it over the thing. But one picture slipped through, and you can actually see it on the website. This image, and you can see the ones that are taped too. Nice. So what was my point? They were seeing them all the way back to that point. And I forgot my point.
It happens to us all the time.
Yeah. Seriously, it does.
Not the first.
You were talking about Apollo 8 and how they went up.
So they went up and they saw this thing, and I don't know where I was going, but ever since, all of the, I guess I'll just switch a little channel here. All of the missions saw something when they went up, and that was the first really weird one. I think that the Apollo astronauts saw.
Excuse me. They were just forbidden to speak about.
Right. They went up, but they couldn't tell you about it. They couldn't speak about what was going on. So, but yeah, they saw a lot when they were up there. And I don't know where I was going, but I'll give you a story. So the Apollo 17, I think that Amelia she had asked me, did they see things, or what did they see? And I was saying they couldn't talk about it. So one of the things that they saw, that we saw here back on Earth, was Apollo 17 saw a box-shaped structure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they had, by this time on Apollo 17, unlike Apollo 11, they had this little rover dune buggy, I call it a little dune buggy, that they could drive around and explore. And while the two astronauts were on this little car, they saw on the camera, the audience back home saw what looked like a box structure. At that time, Walter Cronkite was the narrator, was the news anchor during that time. And he said, as soon as it came up, he says, that looks like a man-made structure, or words to that effect. And immediately the feed was cut. It was cut for 20 minutes. And when they came back on, Walter Cronkite said, NASA says that the little rover accidentally took a picture of itself. And he was laughing. Oh, yeah, that was the best they could come up with, right?
Wow. How does it do that? Okay.
Right. And not only that, but I've seen people, so this thing is actually on the internet. People have posted this video. It's an amazing video to watch. And people posted it, and there was a couple of comments where someone said, my mother used to talk about this thing that she saw on the Apollo 17 mission, where she said, I saw a structure on the moon. So some people are still alive that remember it, see. So there are times where things have slipped through that we can get a glimpse. And today there are, if you go on Google Earth, you can apparently see some pictures of the moon where you can see the structures these days, or you can see outlines of buildings, and you can see roads. And I just, I'm looking at this, and people are just posting it. And sometimes YouTube pulls things down for no good reason. But some people have, they have stayed up. They've stayed up, and I've been looking at these things like, oh my God. And then one man was like, okay, he's got this picture of the moon, and there are these black objects flying around, like coming off the surface. And he says, I can't talk about it because I don't want to be taken down. So you're just sitting and looking at this craziness, but he can't talk about it because he doesn't want to be taken down. But they're there, and he's not the only one.
It's like that one film on one of the Apollo missions, and they're saying that it was just fiction, it wasn't real, but yet there were all these little, you remember, you know what I'm talking about, right? I can't remember which Apollo mission, I don't know which one it was, and shortly after that I believe they stopped. From what they told us, they stopped, but there were these little creatures and the whole crew went missing, and they're saying it's not based on truth, it's just
that was the moon
fiction. It was a film, yes, that they were on the moon, one of the Apollo missions. They had the number, and I can't for the life of me can't remember, and I don't want to be rude in Google, but I'll have to find it and then send it to you. There's a film on it, and I always say there's a little bit of truth to all fiction, right? Everything has a little bit of fact to it. So it makes you wonder. And these little creatures kind of hid in the surface, just under, almost like crabs, but they looked robotic. And I believe there was one that came back. And that's why they could tell so much in the film. So correct me if I'm wrong and you're listening, whether or not that is a factual or fiction film. Okay. Was that the film? Live found? Yes. But they're saying that footage, Zach said, is that the film with live footage found? They're saying that footage just was fabricated. It wasn't real. But yeah, you can see it, and you're just, I talk about a horror film. Just watch that section, and that is horrifying.
Yikes. Yeah. Well, I'll look it up, and I hope I'm not rude when I, kind of stop to look at my book a little bit.
No, that's okay. You're our guest. I don't want to do that to you.
Do it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I just don't want to do that to you. No, you do your thing. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say that, whoever might be up there, it seems to be, watching us pretty closely, because going back to the missions, all of the missions on the way either saw UFOs or they saw strange lights outside following them, and one of them occurred. And forgive me. There were so many of them, and I do get the numbers mixed up unless I open my book, and I don't want to spend time going through it too much. But it may have been Apollo 15 that was, when it was taking off, had two UFOs next to it, and it followed them out, and different places, NASA and some other observatories and stuff saw these two UFOs next to the Saturn V, and said, there's some UFOs there, they're being followed. So, and that was here on Earth, that they spotted UFOs before they even got up there. So it looks like whomever this is has been watching us, following us. And also, ladies, there is a story. There was a man by the name of Maurice Chatelain, and he wrote a book and he worked for NASA, and he wrote this book, and he said that when the astronauts landed, there were ships sitting at the edge of the crater, as has been reported that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin had seen. He says in his book that it happened, but it looked to him like these spacecraft knew they were coming and even waited to see how they would do once they landed. And he says once they landed and they were down and they came out, he says they took off as if they were waiting to see if everything was okay, instead of some sort of hostile beings.
He told that story in a documentary that was just released in the last year, but obviously not in the last year, but they have footage of him telling that story in the documentary.
Isn't that something? I mean, could they have, and I've got two other stories similar to that. We hear that if there's someone on the moon, could they be hostile? But also on the flip side, could they be benevolent? Just like you were saying, Michelle, they didn't have to be after Ingo in a negative way. They could have just been annoyed that he was intruding.
Sure.
So Apollo 13 and Apollo 10 and Apollo 13, both were in trouble on those ships. I don't know if you know the stories. Well, we all know about Apollo 13 because there was a movie done, right? But they didn't they didn't put this in the movie. So on Apollo 10, Apollo 10 was the trial run for Apollo 11. They had to get as close to the moon as they could. So they went up. They had the lunar module, and then they had the ascent stage. They had the second. Oh, I'm having a brain freeze. They had the second. The second ship, separate and come down, and they went as close to the moon's surface as they could get, but they found a problem in space and they were stuck there. The two astronauts were stuck while the other, in the lunar module, while the other was in the command module waiting for them to come back. So they got in contact with NASA, on the ground and said, we have this problem, we can't move. They tried everything they could to fix it, and suddenly they saw something move outside of I'll call it a porthole or a window. And they saw a UFO go by, and shortly after, the equipment that they were having issues with began to work again. And they radioed NASA, and they said, everything's working now. And NASA said, okay, continue with the mission. But the story is, and the point is, that some people felt that whatever it was that passed that ship somehow was able to help them to get going again.
Right.
Right. And there was a similar tale with the Apollo 13 mission. Apparently, this was supposed to be, secretive, but they were helped by ETs to actually get back to Earth. So I found those interesting, those three tales, in that maybe we are not dealing with malevolent beings, but maybe they're very friendly and interested, and maybe they regard us as inferior too. Since they obviously would have the technology of spaceships to move around.
I think you have your share of both. You have good people, you have bad people. You're going to have good races of extraterrestrials. You're going to have not so good races. But it's like everything. Every race, I'm sure, is going to have the good seed and the bad seed. You got the balance, right? Like, I mean, you look at, we'll use Grays, for instance. My gosh, everybody. So, well, almost everybody, so many people, like, no, they're terrible. They do all these experiments. They do all of these abductions. They're terrifying. Yet you have so many people who've had amazing experiences with them. Totally flip side, of the majority. They're like, they've healed us. They've assisted us with knowledge. So why wouldn't they assist, if they see you floating around a tin can out in space, to say, no, we're going to give you that little push, and we're going to assist. There's so many of them that have messages of love and encouragement. Then, you've got, I'm sure you've got the ones out there that are just, ready to do the complete opposite.
Yeah, light and dark in every place, every society.
I agree.
Yeah, I could see that. So, so I thought that was interesting. I would rather have benevolent beings up there than not. You can imagine, though, that if there were beings on the moon and we're flying over there and we're crashing things into it, and we're leaving trash. I don't know if you have any idea, but we have left a lot of trash on the moon.
No way.
Oh, tons of it.
They didn't bring it back with them?
No, we didn't bring it back.
That's disrespectful.
I know. And then when they ran that bomb into the moon in 2009, they could have hurt somebody. And one of my friends immediately texted me and said, "What are they doing? It could be anybody up there. They don't know what's up there. They could come after us. They're bombing it.
That's true too. That's true too.
For all we know, they took out a village. We really don't know. We're so in the dark.
But let's face it. I mean, let's just consider for a moment. We do know how to get on the moon. Military, obviously, NASA, they know how to get to the moon. Let's just say, because there are theories that suggest this, that they work with these extraterrestrial beings, and we do have men literally on the moon from different. I mean, I've basically read numerous, little tidbits of information where it suggests U.S. military, but there is other stuff that suggests different, world militaries working together up there as well with extraterrestrials. Do you think that's a possibility?
I've heard stories about it. Do I think it's a possibility? I don't know. I mean, I have my own question as to how would they, have gotten there. I guess if there were ET ships, the ETs could take them. Otherwise, the rockets are pretty big. You can't miss them going up. So
that brings me to Dave's question: have we actually ever landed on the moon? Because if we've landed on the moon one time, we have the knowledge and the technology to do it. But there's some people that believe it never happened.
Yes, they believe it.
There we go.
I think we landed on the moon. We put first of all, there are mirrors up there that measure how far, measure things on the moon. And one of the ways we know that the moon is moving away from us a little at a time is via those mirrors. And then they put the how do you say it? Seismometers,
right?
Up there. I believe we landed. Now, some people don't believe that we did. They said, it was filmed in a movie set. But the theory is that we did land. But then why does it, why don't we see more? And why does it look this way or that way? Well, the theory is that some of it was held back from the public. And so they created a film to go, with the landing, but they also did some of it, in a studio. That's a theory. That's not my theory. Right. I think I believe that they were there and, it all happened and they took the stuff out of the pictures, but people believe that it was partially in a studio and part of what we saw was on the moon, but they think that they were trying to hide things. So they got up there and they saw all this stuff and they couldn't show us. And so they had to fake some of it. But yeah, I think we landed. I think we landed several times. I think that, it's hard in my opinion, and I've been, people didn't like it when I said this, but in my opinion, I mean, they recorded everything. All of the missions have, transcripts and pages and pages and pages of transcripts because they recorded everything and they've put them away. I mean, that would be some doing to fabricate all of those missions and all of the transcripts and all of the pictures and everything else, and to try to hide each of these moon landings from the public when you have so many people working on them. I don't think they could have kept that secret.
Oh, I knew somebody who actually was in contact with the astronauts for the first landing, like pretty much every day. So they definitely were doing something.
Right. Did that fellow? I guess it was. I don't know if it was a fellow, but did
woman?
he or
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, she. Yeah.
Did she ever comment on that famous missing 2 minutes deal? Because
she wasn't with NASA. It was an exterior thing where they trained, and so it's a long story. It's a show in itself. But she basically was in contact with them for their portion of what, their contribution, I guess, to the whole thing. She wasn't with NASA. I imagine NASA has all that information at that, but I could ask her.
One of my favorite stories is centered around Apollo 11. It's very, very famous. It's almost become, it's a famous tale of. Oh, so I don't know how much of your audience knows this story, but when the Apollo astronauts reached the surface and, they exited the lunar module, which I couldn't remember the name of before, they exited the lunar module. They switched over to a private channel, as the story goes, because they saw ships sitting on the edge of the crater, and they were a bit freaked out. Now, had they been told there could be, yeah, I think that they had been warned, and I'll tell you why in a bit. But they were freaked out, and they supposedly, there is a secret channel, there is a medical channel where you can switch over so that the audience back on Earth won't hear everything. And they called the medical channel and they said, there are ships here and they're watching us. And they cut it out. It was 2 minutes. And it's a 2-minute story that one day I would love to write about. But they cut it out. So I was wondering if your friend had any information on that.
This was the very first moon landing.
That was Apollo 11.
I will ask.
Yeah.
But before I can go any further, we have to do a station and sponsor ID.
Yes, we do. Thanks to these guys, we actually have one. We actually get to do one because of you. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and myself, Amelia Pisano. Tonight's amazing and fascinating guest is Constance Victoria Briggs. I love your name, by the way. Broadcasting live. It's just so Hollywood. I love it. Broadcasting live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 105.3 FM radio, streaming UFO Paranormal Radio right now, and all of our other pages, International Public Radio, UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials Radio, news on the flip side. I'm not even taking that breath. And if you're just tuning in, don't worry. Take a break and come back to us. We are archived right after the show on SoundCloud, on iHeart, Spotify, iTunes, basically any platform that you search. Tonight and every night, our intro and outro comes from the amazing Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker, award-winning composer, and that is his voice that you're hearing as well. You can find him on Bandcamp and Amazon, and you can find him on, I believe he's on Instagram. I know he's on because he's been sharing, and Facebook, and you can purchase his music. It's phenomenal. And tonight, and since the inception, thank you, Folgers, for sponsoring us in every show. Thank you.
We love our sponsors. Yes, we
love
do.
Folgers. We love you. Folgers coffee. That's what's keeping me warm right now.
We are back. Okay. So no, I will ask about that famous 2 minutes. It may not be something she's made privy to, because she did it here through Canada, and she was not a part of the NASA communication.
Well, people did question Neil Armstrong, when he came back. I don't hear many stories about a Buzz Aldrin, but there are a couple where people, like, for example, Neil was at a party, and he basically did say, that they had seen something, and they, kind of knew that they could, but they couldn't talk about it. Recently, I came across a document that said if you work for NASA, that you sign an agreement where if you see an anomaly, you don't talk about it.
Yeah, it's like non-disclosure. You can't say anything.
Can't talk about it. So he couldn't, and they didn't. Some of the film, I don't know if you've seen them, like that press conference right after
Yes.
My
God. You see how solemn they looked.
Wow.
Like, because they couldn't discuss it, and that they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I mean, so many have come forward. There's so many stories out there now where they waited a certain amount of years, and now you can find quite a bit of it. It's fascinating, but it goes to show you how suppressed they were.
How suppressed they were.
Yeah.
And, it's unfortunate because we don't know what's going on. Something could just, show up here and they have, right? But, and just make an announcement and shock everybody because.
And we know nothing. So it's like, we're in the dark.
We're in the dark.
Well, like Tom says. Hi, Tom. Sorry I didn't catch you sooner. I can't even highlight because I can't see anything. He says it all comes down to the distrust of the government.
Yeah.
And that's why so many conspiracy theories are hatched as well.
There we go. There it is.
Yeah. I think if they came forward with a little bit more truth, because I do believe they're just afraid of any power that they lose over it coming about, not fear for the citizens, because they're not here to hurt us. They've always been here. But
there's theories that the government themselves have mastered all of this engineering. They have their own ships, and it's a matter of trying to figure out whose is who.
Right.
That's another theory, right? That's why it's like, how do we know they're not swarming their own ships? How do we know they're not the ones up on the moon?
Yeah.
We are in the dark.
Right. So you had asked me about colonies. So there is a theory that we have extraterrestrials working alongside of humans, that's one colony, and that they have been for a while. I don't know what they might be doing unless they're excavating the moon, because some of the pictures that have come out of NASA looks like there was excavation going on somewhere. But of course, it's a theory. We don't know who really is up there. There's another tale, of course, and I don't believe this one, that the Germans went up in the 1940s. That's a pretty famous account, but I don't think so.
It is, yeah. There's a lot of expansion on that conspiracy theory, but it is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so. It's out there. People have asked me about it. I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
How'd they get up there?
The dark, what is it? The dark fleet. The Dark Fleet,
yeah,
I think is what it's called.
Yeah, I believe that. But
ET is how they allegedly got up there.
Oh, okay. Well, the other colony, of course, is extraterrestrials mining. Like I said, mining the moon. Now that's minus humans. Just they are here to mine the moon, and that they may even be coming here for resources.
I believe that
theory that they're taking water from Earth. Isn't that interesting?
There are actually photos said same individual that I mentioned before, which it was her job to look over and catalog some photos sent by NASA for her boss, who was supposed to analyze them. There are photos of UFOs, and you see streams of water going up from different lakes. And power, they hang out around power plants and things like that also. So I do believe that. And if you really look back, there have been sites that have been located here on Earth that go back like 250,000 years ago, and they can see areas that have been mined, like deep down. And with generators, and you're thinking, we did not have the technology to do this. So if that was a possibility here, no doubt it's a possibility on the moon, where it's even less population. But 250,000 years ago probably would have been about the same. But I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Yeah. And I think that this is a conversation, when it comes to the moon. I really think it's a conversation that needs to keep going, because I think it had quieted down for a while. People weren't paying any attention, and it's beginning to pick up again with all of the talk about the tic-tacs. I want to say TikTok all the time, but the tic-tacs, I think the moon information has come back into play. I actually started a Facebook page of Moon Mysteries, and people are picking that up because I'm constantly posting stuff there, and they're just loving it. So,
good.
so I know that
Good.
people are, gaining some interest and beginning to learn. Hey, this is what's really going on.
I'm just flashing comments across the screen so everyone can see it. For all of the listeners or viewers who are tapping in and just not knowing what's going on, this is the stuff that we're getting in chat, so people can just have an idea. So yeah, feel free. We're still listening. I'm just putting stuff up. So we've shared your Facebook page there, Moon Mysteries Facebook page. So go and check it out, guys. There we go.
So there's a really weird story that I thought I'd share, and you ladies tell me what you think.
Okay.
So we all know, well, not we all know, but many people know about the Anunnaki.
Yes, of course.
Yes, and of course the big theory is that it's the Anunnaki that are on the moon. But I somehow have tied it in, and I don't know if it's true or not, but there's a story of the Sumerian tale of the Anunnaki, the story of creation, where Dampa, who is Adam, in Christian beliefs, may have been created on the moon. So that's a long spiel, but that he may have been created there, and that this being, this Adama, some call him Adama, some Adapa, and he's also Adam. And that he used to preach the moon, and that maybe he was a prophet of the moon because that's where he came. So interestingly enough, right. So the Anunnaki are the tale, as the story goes. The Anunnaki came and tampered with the DNA of primates and created humans to help them to mine for gold on Earth,
right?
Because they needed it for their planet, to save it and to maintain it. So the question someone had is, where did people of Earth find or learn that gold is so valuable? Exactly. They were saying, it goes back for eons up until now, that gold is so valuable. They were saying, well, this came from the beginning when we were trained to mine it. But not only that, now I haven't been able to follow up on this, but I recently read that there is gold on Earth that is disappearing, and they don't know where it's going. Now, see, we have come to the point in time where we have technology where, we can see these things. And people can track these things, and they can see maybe water going, easily get a film of the water going up in a ship. Where's the gold going? Are they still taking gold from here? Even after, we were freed, apparently, as the story goes, humans were freed because there was a disagreement among the Anunnaki that we should have free will, and that's why we're here. And they may be actually the ones on the moon, and that may have even brought the moon into Earth's orbit.
Yeah, very possible that, let's face it. We know that there are still extraterrestrials on the planet. There's no denying that. There's too many sightings of crafts going in and out of the ocean, in and out of mountains. Just they're all over the place, and they go down. They're not seen coming back up right away. Are they still mining? Very possibly. Are the world's elite mining? Very possibly. It's going somewhere, but it's always been considered valuable. It's always been about the gold. But we as mankind emulate what we see, or and that starts from literally day one. Like you say, it's sort of bred into us as, throughout lineage, our ancestors, it's still considered valuable. But so are diamonds, and you just don't really hear much about that. So I don't know, fascinating. Why am I getting streaming to Twitch? This may be an issue. Okay. We're just going to leave that be and remove it. Okay. Move it for now. There we go. Sorry, I just got some big notifications. We're having trouble streaming on Twitch. All right. I can't see anything else. I had to go in and pop it off. Sorry, copy that, guys. Sorry. Bye-bye, Twitch. Sorry. But
So why can't we know that there may be beings on the moon? Why can't we know that? Oh, I see Dave. I see
Yes.
Dave's comment.
There we
Thank you,
go.
Dave.
There we go. I thought it
Yes,
was the sky. Yeah.
yes.
Yes. No, absolutely. Yeah, we you came in late. We covered. Constance talked about all that. You have to check the archive, and you'll be able to catch that whole part about that, the Zulu tribes.
Yeah, why can't we know that we're being visited? Why can't they tell us that there are beings on the moon? It's my understanding that we have to wait until we advance to a certain stage in technology
Mm.
before they will make their presence known. That was news to me. That's something I came across recently. And
That's
yeah.
interesting. So,
Hmm.
like the technology standpoint, I wonder if it's the specific race, or species of extraterrestrials, because so many of them just want us to evolve as a species, not just so much with technology, but with ourselves, with how we care for our poor, our elderly, our own essence, like they look at us as being so primitive. And I think that's why so many reach out to try to get us to just wake up.
Wake up. Oh my God. I'm so glad you used that term. I'm always thinking,
Yeah, right.
when are people going to wake up? Don't they see? Okay. But
That's right.
here's an interesting little bit of information. And you may have heard this. I told you that I'm a Trekkie.
Right.
Well, so you reminded me of this when you were saying that they want us to reach maybe a certain point spiritually. But so Star Trek, I think that the media is being used to perhaps educate us and prepare us, for disclosure.
Mhm.
Um, and Gene Roddenberry, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but Gene Roddenberry was sitting in on channeling sessions during that same period of time when I said that there was a surge in UFO sightings. He was channeling. Well, not he. A woman was channeling. He was sitting in on these sessions, and I swear that's where he, got the idea for Star Trek, because the group that he was channeling said that they were in our vicinity and that these were beings from different worlds working together, and they had come in here because they would not let us blow up life on this planet.
You know what? I read something along those lines also, and also that he sat in on some government briefing.
That was
So maybe they wanted him to sort of ease us all into it. Because
that
let's
was
face
all
it, he was so far ahead of his time, it wasn't even funny. And everything that you see with the Federation, all of that just makes so much sense. It does.
that
It
was all
does.
in Dr. Stephen Greer's new documentary.
There we
That
go. See?
whole story.
Okay,
Yeah.
there we
Oh,
go.
really? I haven't
Yeah.
seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. The last one. It's all in there.
Okay,
so
I
that
didn't
would
see
make
it.
sense. I mean, you're going to take one of the biggest, because he had other series too, but I think let's face it, it definitely when introducing new species of people, it sort of got people warmed up to the idea that there are different species out there, and look at how they all get along.
Right, right.
I think your theory is absolute.
Not only that, I agree with you, but not only that, on one episode, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's one of my favorite. Uh, they there was a planet where they were waiting for them to reach a certain level in technology before on the next generation, before they could
Right.
go in and introduce themselves. And they went in and they presented themselves to the
I saw that
top
one. I know the
the
one.
top official, and he
Yeah.
said, when a race on a world reaches a certain point in technology, we introduce ourselves when they're going to reach warp drive. Now, I'm not saying that we have to reach warp drive, but
No.
I have heard that there is a level, and I can't remember, unfortunately, the name of it is no information for me. Next time I'm on the show in February, I'll bring it. I'll have it.
Okay. We'll do a recap.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that could be some of the reason too. If you remember that gentleman from Israel who wrote the book, and of
Yes,
course, yeah. So he said the Galactic Federation was working with humans. Now, I've heard about the Galactic Federation,
yes.
I don't know, 30 years ago. And there are these books, the Starseed Transmissions, where they, I still have those books. They're amazing. And I haven't spent a lot of time talking about them. But yeah, so when he came out with that term, I was thinking, oh my gosh, he outed them. He outed them. I can't believe I've never heard anyone use that publicly. And he said that they told him these beings in the Galactic Federation said, we cannot know because we're not ready yet. Now, did they mean technologically or did they mean spiritually? I really don't know, but whatever it is, it's my understanding that we're very close. If that story is true, that we're very close to being told. Now, when it comes to disclosure and first contact, I believe that basically disclosure is here because I spend a lot of time talking about this stuff, as do so many others. So that is disclosure. But people want a spaceship to land on the front lawn of the White House, for proof. And the truth is, as far as first contact, which I guess they mean disclosure. Well, first contact, it looks like we've had it. I mean, we haven't had someone land and make an announcement via media, but there are a lot of people talking about this, and it is out of control. There's no longer a point where they can just shut people up because too many people are talking about it now.
That's exactly right. And when you're looking at government disclosure, the United States was one of the last to disclose. There are world governments that have done it long before them. There are some governments, you look at France, for example, they're very wide open about, events that happen with UFO sightings, or like they put it out there. They'll say, oh, there was UFO sighting here, like they don't hide it the same way that it's hidden here in the West. I think even Canada disclosed before the US. The US just, had their reasons, and they were one of the last to come forward with it.
Yeah,
Heck, even Russia did it like 3-4 years ago. So it's like, Russia beat you guys. You let that happen, But I think, I think UFOs, because it's so general, unidentified flying object could be anything. But I think having to admit to extraterrestrial life is something entirely different. I think they're being very careful with that, because what do they do after that? They almost have to admit that you've known all along. You've been lying to us.
Yes,
who's going to be held accountable for that puppy?
Yeah.
So that's a whole different thing. But there's so many people who've seen and had experiences. You can't just say it never happened, because you have a really big percentage of the population is like, the hell, it didn't really happen.
Oh yeah, and not just that, but I've recently seen some incredible video that are showing some really strange beings on there.
Yeah.
Did you see the one that came out of India a few months ago, where there was this tall, thin, white, I guess I can say person, but not really, walking on the street, and it wasn't a hoax. It was on Indian news.
Yes.
Yeah, on the sidewalk.
Yes.
What was that?
Yeah.
You have extraterrestrial or interdimensional, right? Because let's face it, we have a lot of layers, different dimensions within one even our one space. People are crisscrossing into time slips all the time. Portals. Look at all these cryptid sightings that are going on out there. All of a sudden, they just disappear. You have a Bigfoot that just disappears just like that. They never find Nessie.
Right.
Slipping through a portal. We don't.
Well, there's, these are all theories and speculation, but
Yeah.
there is some talk of when they set off that bomb, the first nuclear bomb,
Yeah.
that they may have damaged something or caused a rip that has
Yeah.
allowed some strange stuff to come through that wasn't supposed to. And when I
Yeah.
heard that, I was like, okay, that might explain some things. If that's true, things that are not supposed to be here got
Here.
through.
And it attracted the attentions of other extraterrestrials. Right? Let's face it.
Yeah.
I could see that being a ripple effect for sure. And a rift, it's a portal. They're all over this planet. Look at the power spots throughout this entire planet, the pyramids, Stonehenge, just to mention two. But, the ancients built over power spots. You cannot fire off all these wars that we've had. You can't fire off all this stuff and think that there's not going to be cause and effect from it.
Right. But because they don't believe in such things, we haven't been taught these things in this world.
Mm-hmm.
I had what I have out of body experiences, and I travel when I'm asleep. I
Yes.
astral travel. And so once I traveled to a different place, and I was among these beings who were knowledgeable about leaving the body and traveling, which we are not told, we are not taught.
Right.
They knew that I had a limited amount of time there.
Right.
And they were trying to get me to, they were trying to talk to me, and, I was trying to help them with something in a limited amount of time before I slipped out and had to go back. They knew it. And that experience taught me that there are beings in our universe, it can be, this dimension or the other, that are aware that when you're in the physical, you can leave and come and go. We haven't even been taught. We haven't even accepted that part of us. Okay, so let alone there may be able to put a rip in the veil.
But they don't even want you using your abilities. Why do you think they put so much fluoride in your water, for example, to calcify your pineal gland? But they put, calcium again in the water. Like why? Like you have to detox your pineal gland. It dulls your abilities. They don't want you being who you are meant to be. They want to control you. They don't want you to know this. This is something that we evolve. We learn ourselves. It's very hard. The powers that be, obviously it's government. They don't want you to do all of that. Exactly, Dave. All the processed foods. Oh, exactly. They're
it's all the plastic too.
It's true. Like we're gifted people. We're beings of light on a human journey. We have amazing abilities. But in human form, right here, they don't want you to do that. That's just it's like we're all running amok. We're gonna know more than them. No, can't do that. How are we gonna control the population that way? We have to police this. And religion's like, no, we have to control this. We don't want everybody with too many different opinions. It just makes it hard to have such a diverse society. I mean, we have religions now that can't get along.
Yeah.
Yet the common goal is the same thing.
That's
It's
why I
looking
think
to a creator.
they keep a lot to themselves because the radicals, honestly.
Well, for
we
sure.
have radicals now having
now.
issues with the way we run things on this side of the world or the way we live. Imagine if you had ETs come down.
Oh yeah, exactly. I think it's just small spurts. They have their reasons for doing it, but you have those who are thinking, no, just let us be who we were born to be, and it would probably be a much friendlier planet.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
But who am I?
We can all go to the moon. Looks like they know what they're doing up there. I don't know.
Yeah, I do.
But
I don't know. I can do without the moon.
Yeah, I love the moon.
No, I mean traveling to it. No,
Right.
I can't do without
I have
the
a
moon.
healthy curiosity for it. I'm all down for just I'm an adventure. I'm down, but
I am too, but more like the type that wants to walk on the edge of the CN Tower or jump off a cliff on a bungee cord, not so much walk the moon. I'm a little bit the other way.
Right. Well,
I'm that kind of adventure, the one that needs a granola bar at the end of the adventure.
Someone asked me once, when a host on a show asked me, "Oh, Constance, would you go to the moon?" And I said, "Well, not if they don't have Starbucks."
there are some things are just a little,
Maybe there's something better than that there.
That's for
Maybe
sure.
they've got Folgers.
Right.
It's even better.
But thank you for joining us. I'm really looking forward to the February date now.
Me too. It's been a lot of fun.
We're already we're at the top of the second hours already.
You fit right in, Constance.
Thank you.
Right in. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun. I love being on the show, and I love watching you ladies. So I'm so excited to meet you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Aubrey, we're going to do it again soon.
Okay.
So thank you very much, Constance. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, so I'll see you again next time.
You shall.
Take care.
You
All
too.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, we have come to another fantastic segment of the Outer Realm. That was super interesting. My gosh. So thanks to everybody who tuned in. And big thank you to Constance Victoria Briggs. Of course, Joe for being behind the scenes. And huge thank you to Folgers Coffee for sponsoring us and having faith in us since day one. Big thank you to Dr. Snick, a.k.a. Justin Snicker, for again providing us with his voice, his music for our intro and outro. It's just can't even imagine the show without us now. So please remember to stop by YouTube on all of our YouTube channels, the International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio, UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. Yeah, bam, I did it. And head over to the Outer Realm on Facebook and give us some love, like us up. If you want to contact us, the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com is the best place. Again, the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. So tune in tomorrow night as we welcome for the very first time Leslie Mitchell Clark, who is a certified clinical hypnotherapist. She's going to be discussing past life regressions, dealing with people who have had extraterrestrial experiences, and so much more. So until then, we bid you good night, and we shall see you all tomorrow evening.
You have been listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano, airing live every Wednesday and Thursday evening, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 to 10 p.m. Central, on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.